Hello again and welcome back. Now that you know what makes an effective logo design and how to choose the colors that effectively represent your brand's personality to attract your ideal customers, it's time to learn how to choose the best brand typography. Typography is a very effective building block of a brand's visual identity. Some brands have even become immediately recognizable just by their use of distinctive and consistent typography. There are thousands of typefaces to choose from, and even more are being designed every single day. With all of these options, it may seem like a daunting and an impossible task to choose just a handful of fonts to represent your brand. However, just as you've done when defining your brand's color palette, you can significantly reduce the amount of choices by eliminating certain fonts that simply don't work well with your brand's personality and your audience. Earlier in the logo design lesson, I explained the 4 different kinds of fonts: serif fonts, sans serif fonts, script fonts, and display fonts. We can immediately narrow it down to your font options right now by removing display fonts. Although display fonts may be a creative option when designing a logo, they are definitely not recommended for use in brand typography. This is because display fonts won't work well in large paragraphs or at a small scale. The key drivers when choosing typography is its clarity and legibility regardless of its size or where it is being displayed. So now you only have 3 font types to choose from: serif, sans serif, and script. Let's review each of these. Serif fonts are the fonts that have the little feet at the end of the letters, which make them look a little more old-fashioned. They are very versatile and look great with any kind of design, but work especially well with vintage, elegant, or classic brands. Sans serif fonts are a great choice for a modern and clean look. They don't have the little feet that serif fonts have, which makes them look very sleek and simple. This works great for modern or minimalistic brands. Script fonts mimic handwriting. From elegant calligraphy fonts to relaxed handwriting scripts, these fonts add a personal touch and are great for brands that want to appear unique, fun, and relaxed. And you don't necessarily have to choose just one type of font. A brand's typography is usually made up of 2 to 3 different typefaces that worked well together in various sizes and weights. Your brand's typography should be a natural extension of your brand's logo, colors, and personality. For example, the typefaces that you choose should be influenced by the shapes and the style of your logo, so they are complemented and create a cohesive look. Your typography and fonts should also support your personality and emotional connection derived from your brand's colors. Here are a few typography imperatives to keep in mind when researching the type styles of your brand. Number 1, your typography communicates feelings and reflects positioning. Just like your brand's colors, typography has the ability to convey feelings and emotions. So when choosing typography, make sure that it supports your brand's positioning, personality, and values. Number 2, your typography covers a range of application needs. Your brand's fonts need to be available on a range of applications for both online and print. Therefore, you may need to choose Google font alternatives for your website that are similar to your primary brand fonts. Number 3, your typography works in a range of sizes. Big, bold, blocky fonts may not be legible at a small scale. When choosing your fonts, specifically those that will be used for paragraphs or subheading text, make sure that you test them out at a variety of sizes. Number 4, your typography works in black, white, and in color. Using your brand's color palette that you defined in the last session, test out font options using these colors. Specifically look at how the fonts appear in both high contrast and low contrast applications. Number 5, your typography differs from the competition. You don't want your brand to look just like your competitors. Take this opportunity to be creative and separate your brand from the competition by choosing a typography style that allows your business to be different and stand out. Number 6, your typography is compatible with your logo signature. Brand typography and fonts should support your logo and signature, not conflict with it or look like an afterthought. Always test out font options next to your logo. I recommend writing your tagline in each font underneath your logo to see how it looks. Number 7, your typography has personality. The style of typography, the line weight, the curvatures, the spacing should all be defined and support your brand's personality. For example, if your brand is young and playful, you would obviously design a logo and choose colors that support that personality. So it only makes sense that you also do the same with the typography to further support your brand's experience. Number 8, your typography is sustainable. As I mentioned earlier, some highly successful brands have become recognizable just by their brand typography. This will only happen through consistency over time. So be sure that when choosing fonts, you keep in mind how your business intends to grow in the future. You don't want to choose a trendy font today just to realize that it cannot support your brand in the future. Number 9, your typography reflects your culture. An effective brand strategy starts within your team and your culture. Just like your brand's personality and colors, your typography should reflect your internal culture and the vision and values that your brand promises to deliver. When defining your brand's typography, you're not just choosing a few fonts. You're creating an enjoyable user experience by designing a system that makes content easier to consume. The arrangement and the hierarchy of how you use typography will affect your brand's visual identity and how it impacts and influences your customers. That means developing a structure to the typography that includes headers, subheaders, paragraph text, body copy, bullet points, and any other text elements that your brand may need both online and offline. For example, you may want to choose a big and bold font or perhaps a playful script for your headings. These fonts are meant to attract attention and support your brand's personality. These font styles will most likely not work at small scale or formatted into paragraph copy, but that's okay because they are at the top tier of your typography hierarchy and will be supported by other fonts that work better as paragraph text. Once you have a heading font defined that will create impact and represent your brand's personality, next you will choose a secondary subheading font. This can be a completely separate typeface, but also keep in mind that many typefaces are available in multiple weights and widths. Therefore, you could choose the same typeface for the subheadings that you did for your headings, just at a lesser weight or a narrower width. Be creative and experiment with typefaces that work well together. For example, try pairing serif fonts with sans serif fonts. The last part of your typography hierarchy is to define your paragraph text. This is the font that you will use when providing the viewer with lots of text content. Its main purpose is to be legible and easy to read. You don't want the visitor struggling to read paragraphs of script fonts, so be sure to choose a simple font like Arial, Helvetica, Open Sans, Verdana, or Georgia, or a similar typeface that is easy to view. Now that you know what to look for when researching typography and how to present it in a logical order, here are a few tips to help you find the best fonts for your brand's typography. Tip number 1, where to find typefaces. As I mentioned earlier, there are thousands of typefaces to choose from. When choosing where to find typefaces, you actually have 3 options. You can download free open source typefaces, you can purchase professionally designed typefaces, or you can hire a lettering artist to design a typeface specifically for your brand. Like with any choice, there are pros and cons of each of these. Free open source typefaces are available from dozens of websites and are usually the go-to for small businesses or brands that are just starting out. They are usually web-friendly and available from Google Fonts, so they can be consistently used across all platforms. The pros of open source fonts are that they are free, readily available, and can be used on several different platforms. The cons of open source fonts are that they can be poorly designed, they sometimes look generic, they may not include all characters, and they could be limited when it comes to weight options. I have included a few free open source typeface resources in the action guide for this module. An alternative to open source typefaces are professionally designed paid typefaces. These typefaces typically provide the greatest freedom and flexibility because you have many more style options. The pros of licensing professional typefaces are that they are a great variety of choices and the fonts are often high quality. The cons are that they can be expensive, and if there are multiple designers working on multiple platforms, you will most likely be required to purchase several licenses for each of the fonts within the type family. These license fees can certainly add up and may be beyond the budget of smaller businesses. I've included a few professional typeface resources in the action guide for this module. The final option you have is to design a custom typeface specifically for your brand. Designing a custom typeface gives your brand the opportunity to craft your own visual language. The pros of designing a custom typeface is that it is a unique mark to your brand and separates you from the competition. The cons of designing a custom typeface is that they are very expensive and requires a large time commitment. If you are looking to hire a professional lettering artist and are interested in learning how to design your own typefaces, I have included a few of those resources in the action guide for this module. Number 2, narrow down your choices. Try not to get overwhelmed by the abundance of typeface options available. Start by determining what types and style of font best represent your brand's personality and message. Then simply eliminate the rest. Aim for about 15 to 20 typefaces to begin with. Next, narrow that list down to your top 5 to 10 by taking a closer look at each individual typeface. While auditing each typeface, here are a few questions to ask. If more than 3 of these answers are no to any of the typefaces, it should be eliminated from your list. Does the typeface help your brand stand out from the competition? Can this typeface be used for all applications? Does this typeface work in print and on the web? Will this typeface look great on a website, banner ad, and product packaging? Does this typeface include all the characters that I need? Will this typeface grow with our brand, or is it too trendy? Is this typeface available in multiple sizes and weights? Does this typeface complement other elements of our brand's identity? Is this typeface legible? Are all the characters well formed? Does this typeface work well at a small scale? And are all the characters of this typeface distinctive? For example, do the I's, lowercase l's, and number 1s look different? Number 3, create font pairings. Hopefully you have now narrowed down your typeface options to your top 5 to 10. Next, start pairing up your options to see how well they support each other. For example, include each typeface as a tagline with your logo, or create a quick web page mockup and add a main heading, a subheading, and paragraph text using each of these typefaces. Pay close attention to how they interact. Does one typeface conflict with the other or not support your brand's personality? Remember to take advantage of the different weight options available for each typeface. Sometimes pairing up different weights will make all the difference in how well each font connects and supports the big picture. Also experiment with uppercase, sentence case, and lowercase. You may discover that with certain typefaces, the heading should always be uppercase to create the greatest impact. If this is the case, you will define that later when I show you how to create your visual brand style guidelines. I have included a few font pairing resources in the action guide for this module. This pairing and investigation process will take some time to narrow down the options to your final 2 to 3 brand typefaces. Be sure to create a collaborative environment by inviting your entire team, especially the creative department, to take part in this exercise. Typefaces can be tricky to work with, and it's very easy to overlook some of these smaller details, so get as many eyes on them as possible. Number 4, define your type hierarchy. Once you have selected your final 2 to 3 typefaces, the next step is to create the type hierarchy that I mentioned earlier. This is where you choose which of the typefaces will be used for your headings, your subheadings, your bullet points, and your paragraph text. This will also include defining what sizes and weights to use for each application. I will walk you through this process step by step in upcoming modules when we create your visual brand guidelines. But for now, I have included a hierarchy example in the action guide for this module. So there you have it. That is everything that you need to know about choosing brand typography that will effectively support the personality and the style of your brand. So that's it for now. Be sure to review and complete the action guide for this module, and I will see you in the next training.